Futurists, Hollywood writers, and military experts spend countless hours dreaming up doomsday scenarios. Researchers and institutes around the world invest billions of dollars annually in the speculative sciences. What they've found is, dreaming up nightmarish visions of what mankind would do in the face of extraordinary peril isn't that hard. Just a quick glance at the news or the pages of history provides countless examples of destruction on an almost unthinkable scale. But what if the threat facing mankind came from someplace else? What if, in the not-too-distant future, an utterly alien civilization attacked our cities? The question really facing mankind isn't what exactly could happen, but how exactly could we survive?
Doomsday scenarios. Well, it depends on how frequently you think about doom. I'm more of an eternal optimist than I am an eternal pessimist. But I do, as a professional military man, think about what the reaction would be to invasion.
Captain Dale Dye is a Marine correspondent, combat engineer, and one of the foremost thinkers on military strategy. He's a member of the U.S. Secretary of Defense's staff and a highly regarded combat advisor on Hollywood movies. It's Captain Dye's job to think about the intersection of fact and fantasy.
We have to think beyond that. We have to think out of the box, so to speak. We have to think, well, what if the next encounter wasn't even with humans? What if the next encounter was with some technology for which we had no counter? And if we're not thinking in those areas, then should that sort of situation arise, we're caught absolutely flat-footed with our trousers down around our ankles, and then you do have a doomsday scenario.
We prepare for disasters like earthquakes and things, but I think we're completely unprepared for an invasion by an alien species.
To get a sense of how an invasion from the stars might unfold, some of our best thinkers say that mankind's own history offers the most important lens through which to explore the future.
You can always relearn from history. Most of the time, history repeats itself.
There's probably been outrageous invasions for thousands of years, but I think probably the ones that, in my mind, would be really stand out is the contact between Europeans and the Native Americans. Those Aboriginal societies encountered, tremendous decimation to their populations. Some folks postulate that upwards of 97% of the population was killed as a result of disease. I think that what occurs is potentially just sort of an inkling of the level of devastation.
Any military encounter that has gone on and been historically recorded in the annals of mankind is useful potentially for the next encounter.
Warfare is kind of a classroom. It's constantly an evolving process. We try to stay on the front edge of that knowledge curve as much as possible, but until we go to war, there's certain things that we won't know for sure until we can actually get into combat.
One of the things we should do is not necessarily prepare for a repetition of those conflicts. We have to think beyond that.
It could be very much like New York City's blackout, in which we're thrown into a spiral and not know what's going on. A lot of chaos, a lot of things that we're unprepared for.
Dr. Thomas Frey is the executive director of the Da Vinci Institute, a think tank dedicated to futurist thought. Frey is one of the country's foremost experts in a so-called fringe science of speculation.
How would they go about conquering the Earth? Very subversively. It wouldn't be with guns. It wouldn't be with nuclear weapons. I think it would happen without our knowing. I still think that the idea of traditional wars as we fight them now is going to kind of go away, because there'll be cleaner, more efficient ways of doing things.
For Frey and other speculators, drawing up battle plans of the future requires scientific observation mixed with a healthy amount of creative guesswork.
An invader would go for what we now have euphemistically come to think of as shock and awe. There is a great psychological advantage into shocking your enemy into stasis.
A real devious enemy can come up with things that will leave most militaries, most defense mechanisms useless.
And if I was coming from some other place and I was trying to figure out how to deal with the human species, and in fact my goal was to wipe out the human species, I wouldn't have boots on the ground. The easiest thing to do would be to use some sort of virus or a parasite, some sort of forced mutation. That would be far more effective.
Well, I think every leap in lethality always counters or always prompts a counter move on the part of the other guy. As long as we can envision and invent ways to bring harm, someone will envision and invent ways to protect against that, and the beat goes on.
An attack of unthinkable proportions. Man's greatest structures reduced to rubble in minutes. Our population decimated. Could we possibly survive? Or would mankind simply be stamped out, destroyed?
I think the likelihood of humankind destroying itself is far greater than the likelihood of being attacked by aliens from some other solar system.
I'm fairly confident that humans would survive. Maybe a doomsday scenario, but I don't necessarily think it would end in doom.
The human will to live, the human instinct to survive, I think will always overpower any threat, no matter how ferocious, how omnipotent. Somewhere, some human will survive, no matter what. We're kind of like cockroaches, I think, in that sense. Smart cockroaches.
Coming up in part 2 of The Last Stand, retaliation.